I'll do a brief one and I'll go into some of the details about what we're seeing with Prism. Now, again, a lot of times people will just say, oh, it's Nu Skin, they're a personal care company, and that's true, or a supplement company, but we're number one globally for our devices. And we got there because of our distributors, of course, who shared this with everybody. But what's come with that responsibility being number one in the world, by number one is the most in terms of the volume of sales that we've done globally. And we've held that for now almost going on 8 years now. And it's quite amazing because certainly this category keeps growing. And so usually when there's a growing category, and they always want to knock off the top dog, and that's us. But what's happened with this is we've learned so much about devices and how they work and how our field can use these devices to help their personal well-being, whether it's skin or whether it's wellness. And so we're number one in devices, and that's a growing category, and we know that. And so we also have this amazing biophotonic scanner that's unique to us, and it's different than anything else. And we have over 23 years of experience in technology, and it's these 20 million data points that we talk about so much that is so important. Now, what's amazing about that is not just the fact that we have those data points, but we just finished, and I just was sent to me earlier today, believe it or not. It's just hot off the press. So you guys are hearing this. We just received this from our science team. It's amazing. So there's going to be a published study you're going to see come out. And it's essentially, it's going to be from Dr. Helen Nags, and it's a peer-reviewed article. It has assessing global lifetime skin carotenoid scores 2003 to 2025, and it shows the implications to wellness, lifestyle factors, potentially enhance or diminish health span. So it really is this analysis that we've done. Now you're going to see it out there and published. That's going to talk about this in great detail. And it shows the relationship about what happens when you get a score. They call it about skin carotenoid scores. And they say, well, that's just one measurement, one analyte. And that's true. It's what it is. It's not necessarily just the one score. It's how that score correlates with lifestyle factors. That's the important thing here. So for instance, you have companies that come out and say, well, we can do carotenoids or we can measure certain things. It's true, but they haven't gone 3 layers beyond that, which is essentially understanding how does that score relate directly to your overall health and well-being. And we've actually have that documentation, and you'll actually see it come out in this new published study that we have coming out. We couldn't have had it had we not had all of these global scans. Now, we know beauty and wellness is challenging in and of itself to be the best in the world and so forth, but people are also want to be personalized. And personalized nutrition, where most people have gotten in the past, is they have a doctor that either draws blood or they spit into some sort of a cup, and then they measure the saliva, they measure something that's inside of our bodies to verify things. And so usually you have to expel something, and whether it's blood or urine or stool or specifically spit or saliva. And this non-invasive way to actually extract data on the inside of our bodies is so important. In fact, the other day I was talking to somebody, and I said, it's interesting, you go through life and you think about the different type of imaging that goes on, and people are trying to see what's inside of our bodies and so forth, and whether you have an x-ray to see if you have a broken bone or something like that. There's very few things can actually look inside and actually see what's happening, because the body is just, it's very unique. You can see outward manifestations, but you got to see what's on the inside. And so the ability to personalize your beauty and wellness journey predicated upon a non-invasive individual PRISM score is going to change everything. And quite honestly, how did we do it? It was AI. It really was this AI phenomenon, because we could never get the Raman technology that we've been using now for the last 20 plus years in a way that we could get it small enough and respond quick enough and be precise enough to allow it to go into, whether it's a phone or whether it's an actual, like the small prism that we have now. It was virtually impossible until the advent of AI. And so we worked with a couple local universities, and we were able to work with these engineering professors, and build an algorithm that correlated the data with S3 to a sequencing of lights that is now called the spectral ray that you are all familiar with. And so now we're number one in devices. We have all this data. People want personalized beauty and wellness. And now we have AI to help drive that. And that is so important. And so when you think about the S3, you look at it and say, okay, has it improved? Yeah. Before it used to be 30 seconds. Now we're doing it in 15. There used to be 2 LEDs. Now we have 5. Same number of photodiodes, but now we're up to close to 800,000 scans per 15 seconds versus 259,000. And then you look at the charge times, the device UI, the fixed Raman calculation, and now we have this proprietary learned algorithm for carotenoid analysis. This is so amazing. I was just speaking with a group of doctors the other day and who are familiar with Biophotonic scanner, and then also specifically understanding what is happening with the skin and colors and so forth. And they say Nu Skin really is the gold standard when it comes to understanding and calculating this carotenoid score, which correlates with our overall health score. And it is really quite unique to believe that this little company from Provo, Utah, has helped the whole world, if you will, understand what's going on the inside in a proprietary way that no one else has been able to do. Now we have 2 brand new patents that we have going that are tied to PRISM. And then this IO update, this is so important. So Pat, you and Marguerite were talking a little bit about this drift or this how things has shifted over time where your score would go up or down and so forth. That's because we've got this so precise now, the level of precision on this 800,000 scans. You move your finger a little bit, you don't have it pressed down exactly quite right. You haven't washed your hands, you haven't washed the lens or used that essentially this nice little cloth that we've applied here to be able to just cover, essentially just go in and just to do this. A lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to scan. Don't mistake this as a toy or something that can just be played with all the time. The scanner, you wouldn't just throw it in your pocket. You don't throw it in your purse. You don't throw it in stuff. And so what we're finding is a lot of people are building up a little bit of residue on the lens, or they're banging it around and so forth. And so just doing a little bit of cleanup here, making sure they're washing their hands, especially when you have multiple people scanning on a consistent basis. That's really important. The second thing is making sure you're using the same finger. As you can imagine, everything in our bodies is not distributed exactly equal. And so for consistency's sake, you want to stay in the same approximate region. That way you get more consistency with your score. So the focus there is to be able to make sure that you get that same score over and over. And the great news is that we have these IO updates, and we're going to be doing another one here in maybe the next day or so, because we just received another study that we did with our scientific advisory board member, Zoe Dralos, where she led a study to look at the correlation on blood serum levels. So what we're talking about is we're actually taking the blood and through a needle and basically extracting the blood, measuring the carotenoid levels of the blood, and then comparing that to the score that we received when we did the PRISM, so non-invasively. So you have an invasive way with the blood to verify the blood levels, and then you go look at the skin carotenoid scores through the non-invasive PRISM. And the correlation was as high as, meaning that's as good as we've seen in many of the pharmaceutical applications and medical device applications. So that's the gold standard, if you will, for all of the medical community and people who are trying to make sure that the correlation exists. So what you're essentially saying is you're saying, hey, you can now, without a needle and without this deep, you have to use very unique equipment, types of HPLCs and in a lab to be able to measure that blood that they're talking about. And we're doing it literally in 15 seconds on this device. And that's the equivalent of say a $250,000 machine sitting in a lab that we have over here at Nu Skin, about 12 of those. But you also have to have phlebotomists take the blood and all the other stuff that goes with it. So that's what you're getting with this. So now what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to update as we get information in, and as we have that correlation score, enables us to get even more precise on the specific amount of measurements that we need with each individual light sequencing. So now we have somewhere close to around, just to give everybody some perspective, we now have on the PRISM through all of the scanning that we've done with the original beta versions and now with the new Force for Good editions, and even with some of these BR prisms that are out there, we're getting close to over 100,000 scans. Can you believe that? 100,000 scans this year just on the pre-setup for this. And all of that data comes into us and we're seeing it real time, and it's informing this correlation to understanding what that score is going to be. What does that mean for you? At the end of the day, what it means is when we show these limited firmware updates in the IO, we can now take this information, drive the algorithm, and then get more precise as we go. So right now, I would say the scores of most people's prisms are edging a little higher than they normally would. When we give the update on the firmware, it'll actually drop it a little bit more in line with what we're seeing on a consistent basis. But we could not make that move until we actually did the validation and the testing through our science team and through Dr. Zoe Draelos. Now that we have that information, we correlate that with the over 100,000 scans that we've done, and we can now make that move where we can adjust the overall scoring system. And so that you'll start to see that come out. But the great thing about that is that comes out directly right into your app and right into the system itself. So you don't have to change anything, you don't have to do anything. The only thing you really need to focus on is this little guy right here in terms of calibration. Just make sure your device is calibrated, it's clean, and that you're able to use it on a consistent basis and use the same finger typically on a daily basis, and we'll continue to get better. So this is the overall hyperspectral absorption model that we talked about, that spectral ray. We took that proprietary Raman database and then we infused it with the hyperspectral absorption. So we were able to get the algorithm built, and that's what's driven this whole thing. So when you think about Nu Skin, as we started in 1984, our simple concept was all the good, none of the bad, right? That was our whole goal. And at Nu Skin, we want to take the guesswork out of nutrition, whether it works or it doesn't. We want to be able to stand by the clinical evidence that shows that this product does help people. And so think of the PRISM as another ability for you to demonstrate the difference at Nu Skin. So you can actually have something simple, it's easy. In 15 seconds, you can get a general idea of the PRISM score, which is the direct correlation to the health score, antioxidant score, and then you have products that you can use to improve upon it. So it's just going to get better and better. And as we go into 2026, we'll keep every single time one of you actually scan on a PRISM, it refines the algorithm and improves it. So it gets smarter and smarter. Kind of like when the iPhone started, it started at a certain level. And now it's smarter and smarter. Those smartphones are getting smarter and smarter. And now they're using artificial intelligence there too. Same thing is true with the PRISM. It now is no longer a static piece of equipment. The S3 was static. The data would come in and go into a big Excel database. That's it. It goes into an Excel database. And then we take that database and the professors and the doctors and the scientists circles would all look at that data and try to make adjustments. With this, we're doing real-time adjustments every single time we do a scan. So when you do a scan there in the market, it flows in and it says it came in from this market on this device, this was the score, and it really helps inform all of this that we're talking about. So that gives a little bit of a background. So hopefully I'll stop there for a second. We can talk through some of the other things that we want to talk to tonight, but hopefully that gave you some pretty good perspective.